Welcome back to ELS Gaming, and today we are back in FIFA 14 for another retro rebuild. And today we are taking over as the new manager of Monaco in the French League. PSG have been way too dominant in Ligue 1, and it's about time that we change that. This team is only a couple years out from getting promoted into Ligue 1, and with players like James Rodriguez, Falcao, and João Moutinho, they have some great talent and a great team for me to take over in today's episode. So this is what the team looks like. Obviously, we have the big dogs, James Rodriguez, Falcao, the Colombians, as well as a solid João Moutinho in midfield, but there is a lot of notable names like a young Carrasco, a young Fabinho at right back, he is on loan, as well as Kurzawa, a young left back, and a couple other players on the roster like a Campos, and even a very young Anthony Martial. But despite this squad having a lot of cool players, we're a little bit top heavy. There is a lot of room for growth, and we are going to need to make a lot of signings if we want a chance at the UCL title. And for season 1, we have 132 million to work with. I'm not sure how they got that, but that is a staggering amount of money. I'm not going to spend that much of it, but that is incredible. We should be able to make plenty of signings. But before we made any signings, we sold Andreas Wolf to Newcastle for 1.3 million. And we were going to make our first signing, but David Luiz denied us 3 times, so we had to look elsewhere for a new center back. And because of that, we went in for a older, more established center back in Nemanja Vidic, 19.5 million. We acquired him from Manchester United, a good signing indeed. Next up was a new left back into the team, the Italian from Zenit, Crescico. We signed him for 12.5 million, a new starting left back. That was followed by a new right back on the opposite side of him, a young Kyle Walker. We managed to pick him up from Spurs. We were able to buy him for 13.5 million, a brand new right back into the club. So for the opening transfer window, we went in for 3 defenders, trying to bolster up our defense, and that was our only business we had this opening transfer window, was those 3 players. So this is what the squad looks like for season 1. It looks a lot more balanced, and I do like the defense a lot more. That's where we went and strengthened the team. Obviously, we have a lot of great attackers. The midfield is okay at this point. I need to see some growth out of them, but I do like the team for season 1. I'm not expecting anything huge, but I think we're on the right direction for some progress in the future. But unfortunately, jumping forward to January 1st, we were sitting in a terrible spot, 7th place, very disappointing. I thought we would be doing a lot better, but we were not. We were sitting on 34 points, a whopping 15 behind PSG in first place. We were doing terrible. We needed to make some changes in January if we had a chance at least Champions League next season. And looking back at the team, our right center back was between Eric Albiol and Ricardo Carvalho. Both of them very old, and both of them were declining in rating very rapidly, so I think we needed to bring in another center back. And we still had plenty money in the tank, 67 million, plenty of money to buy that new center back. And that is exactly what we did. We headed over to Porto for a French center back, Mangala, before he went to Man City in real life. We sent 21 million to Porto for his signature. He should be a great addition into this team. So he was the only addition into this team in January. This is what the team looks like. We are struggling. We need a good second half of the season to secure Champions League football. That is the goal for this season, and hopefully we are able to make that happen. And jumping forward to the end of the season, we managed to claw our way into a Champions League spot, finishing in 3rd place. PSG ran away with the league, almost getting 100 points, but that doesn't matter. We succeeded at our goal, finishing in 3rd place in Ligue 1. That means we do have Champions League football for next year. That is brilliant. It looks like all of our defensive signings were definitely able to help us this season. Bright things coming in the future. Let's get into season 2. All right, season 2, the team is kind of all over the place. We have a lot of good talent, but we have a lot of young players who need a lot of time to develop and are just not going to be ready in time for a Champions League push this season. Upgrades to this team: Romero, our starting goalkeeper from last year, was only on loan here at Monaco, so we're going to have to look for a new goalkeeper, as well as looking at the left wing position. Even though Ocampos was a decent player, he had a good amount of goals and assists last season, he's just not good enough, so I want to upgrade there as well. And for this season, we do have a decent amount of money, $73.5 million to work with. Not as much as last year, but is definitely should be enough to sign a couple of players. So first, we went in for a new goalkeeper, a great piece of business, 85 rated Hugo Lloris from Tottenham Hotspurs. We picked him up for only $12 million. Next up, I wanted to bring in a huge signing, one of my favorite players of all time. We headed to Barcelona, where we went in for Alexis Sanchez. We forked out $28.5 million for his signature, and he's going to be playing his future position on the left side as our new left winger. And after those two signings, we still had $27 million to work with, and I thought we need to bring in a new center mid. But unfortunately, every single player I went in for rejected my offer, meaning that when deadline day came to a close, we only made the two signings of Alexis Sanchez and Hugo Lloris, and without a new midfielder. But despite that, the team was looking solid with an incredible attack. Alexis Sanchez, James Rodriguez, and Falcao, we were destined to score a lot of goals. And when January came around, we were flying on top of the Ligue 1 table, first place ahead of Bordeaux and PSG. We were doing absolutely fantastic, just the spot we wanted to. If we can keep this up for the rest of the season, we might have our very first Ligue 1 title of the rebuild. But since we are in January, I did want to make that center mid transfer. So we went in for another Chilean, one of my favorites, Arturo Vidal. We signed him from Juve, this time for a cheaper $22 million. He's going to be a great addition into this team. And with the signing of our brand new center mid into the club, deadline day came to an end. And having a look at our Champions League group stage, we ended up topping our group on 13 points on 4 wins, 1 point ahead of Bayer Leverkusen in second, which meant that in the round of 16 of the Champions League, we faced Manchester City, a very tough opponent for the round of 16. We ended up jumping into this game. In the first leg, we were at the Etihad. It was going to be a very tough game. And it was proving that way, as early on in the 8th minute, Yaya Toure found some space in the box and low-drivened it home into our net, putting us down 1-0 early on. But we were not going down without a fight. James Rodriguez had a free kick at the edge of the box and just barely ended up missing, pulling out a great save from the Manchester City goalkeeper, keeping it 1-0. As well as in the 44th minute, James had another chance but ended up hitting a shot wide of the post. But luckily, right before halftime in the 45th minute, Lescott fouled Falcao in the box, granting us a penalty. So Falcao was the man to step up to take it, and with not a great penalty, it still ended up finding the back of the net, beating Joe Hart. He was rooted to the spot, evening the score up just before halftime. So like I said, at halftime, it was 1-1. And in the second half, Man City came out flying. Early on, they had a shot in the box, but it was deflected by our center back. But that was followed by a brilliant counterattack by us. Alexis Sanchez cut inside on his right foot, dribbled all the way into the box, and smashed home his shot right past the Manchester City goalkeeper to put us up 2-1. A brilliant piece of individual play. Alexis Sanchez got his goal on the board. So for the rest of the game, a couple more chances would come for each team, but nothing really important. So as the final whistle blew, the final score was 2-1. We had gone into the Etihad and won in the first round of the UCL. And heading into the second leg of the round of 16, the only goal came when Crescito whipped in a cross that Falcao got on the end of it with his head, putting us up 1-0 in the 80th minute, a very boring game. But luckily, since the Falcao goal, we won the second leg and the first leg, putting us through to the quarterfinals of the UCL. And in the quarterfinals, we were up against a very tough opponent, Messi's Barcelona. And straight off the bat, both teams had a couple of chances, both from crosses and both sorted out by the defense. That was followed by Messi having a clear chance on goal, but somehow missing his shot from inside the box. A miraculous miss by Messi in his prime. That was followed by a chance of our own. Alexis Sanchez, against his former team, shot the ball across net but just wide of the target. But Barcelona continued to put on the pressure. A good steal turned Pedro's shot just wide of the post, keeping the game level. So by halftime, the game was still 0-0 with both teams doing a lot offensively. But in the second half, it was a different story. James Rodriguez found some space where he sweated the ball back into João Moutinho, who scored, putting us up 1-0, breaking the deadlock against Barcelona. And only 10 minutes later, that was followed by Falcao finding João Moutinho in the box, who slotted away his shot for his second of the match, putting us up 2-0, a very solid position. So as the final whistle blew in Barcelona, João Moutinho was the hero in a 2-0 victory against Barcelona in the first leg of the quarterfinals. And that led us into the second leg, where only 2 minutes into the game, Iniesta found the end of a cross, heading his shot away, putting them up 1-0 extremely early on into the game. Not a great start for the second leg. And that was followed up by, in the 15th minute, Messi found some space, who low-driven the ball across net, past Lloris, putting them up 2-0, wiping away the first leg, putting Barcelona level with us. But thankfully, we held out till halftime, meaning it was 2-2 on aggregate going into the break. But unfortunately, the meltdown continued. Iniesta had found some space in the box, who low-drivened it past Lloris once again for his second of the match, putting us down 3-2 on aggregate. And they were not done there. Messi crossed the ball to Neymar, who somehow headed it above our two defenders, putting it past Lloris, putting them up 4-0 in the second leg, meaning we had completed the absolute choke job, losing the match 4-2 as the final whistle blew. A horrendous loss and quite the way to exit the Champions League. And focusing back on the league, at the end of the season, we ended up finishing in second place, only 4 points behind PSG in first. Very disappointing. I wished we had won the league on this season. That was the goal, but we couldn't end up doing it. A very disappointing season all round. But we did, however, end up winning the Coupe Nationale 3-0 in the final, as well as making the final of the Coupe de Ligue, but unfortunately losing that. So let's just get into Season 3. Alright, Season 3, here is our team. There are 2 glaring holes in this team. Vidic is going down a lot in rating. He's down to an 82, so I think we need to bring in another star center back. That would help a lot. As well as Crescito, even though a solid left back, he has not gone up a single rating in 2 seasons, so I think we can do a little better at the left back position as well. And for the season, we have a budget of $67.5 million to make any transfers that we like. And as our first transfer, we did go in for a center back, Mats Hummels, a huge pickup. We sent $36 million to Dortmund for his signature. He's going to be a great center back for this team. Next up, our left back choice, we signed Leighton Baines from Everton for $12.5 million. One of my favorite players of all time, a great pickup. And those 2 signings were the only piece of business for this opening window. So this is what the team looks like now. It looks amazing. The attack looks great. Alexis Sanchez is up to an 88 overall. The midfield is still growing and looks great, and the defense now looks fantastic. I think we have a real shot at a deep UCL run this season. It has to be our year. And our Champions League group for this season is Chelsea, Lokomotiv, and Celtic. We should have no problem with that. Let's go to January. And jumping to January 1st, we are sitting in 3rd place in Ligue 1, 4 points behind PSG, still just cannot catch up to them. Always seem to end up behind them, which is just not ideal. But unfortunately, Nemanja Vidic was very upset that we replaced him in the starting 11, and he even went to the board, so the board actually ended up selling him for 4.3 million to I don't even know who, but that means we're going to need a new center back replacement for the bench. And that is exactly what we did. We signed David Luiz from Chelsea for 11 million. He actually wanted to join this time, another addition into the team. So at deadline day, Vidic and David Luiz were the only piece of business in January. So having a look at the Champions League, we're in the round of 16 versus Porto after absolutely crushing the group. We don't even need to see that. And in the first leg, it was a 1-0 victory thanks to James Rodriguez. And in the second leg, it ended up being a 3-0 victory thanks to a hat-trick from Alexis Sanchez. So that meant in the quarterfinals, we were up against our rivals PSG, where in the first leg, we actually ended up winning 2-0 in an absolute dominant performance. And that form continued into the second leg, where we had another 2-0 victory, knocking out our rivals in a beautiful 4-0 aggregate win against PSG. But in the semifinals, we were up against our old nemesis, Barcelona, another extremely tough team. And it seemed like they would get the best of us again. In the first leg, it was a 2-1 loss at the hands of Barcelona. But in the second leg, we ended up winning 2-0, knocking Barcelona out, putting us through to the Champions League final. An amazing performance, beating out what is arguably the best team in FIFA 14. So this was the final team we were headed into the UCL final with. An amazing roster: Alexis Sanchez, James Rodriguez, a beautiful midfield. I love the defense. Mangala is up to an 87. The team looked fantastic. However, unfortunately, Falcao was out with an injury and Kyle Walker was out with a red card, so we had to make do, losing out on some of our best players. We had to just make it work for the Champions League final. And getting into the Champions League final against Bayern, the first half, it was all us. Straight off of the bat, James Rodriguez, his low-driven shot went just wide of the post early on. That was followed by another James shot, but again, it was missed just wide of the post. And continuing our first half dominance, Vidal had a shot from range, forcing the keeper to make a save, as well as Bayern Munich's goalkeeper having another great save, but unfortunately we weren't able to get past him. So by the halftime whistle, it was 0-0, a stalemate versus Bayern Munich. But in the second half, Bayern started to turn up. They had a couple of chances, but our goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, was there on both occasions. But the second half was very scrappy, a pretty boring second half, so when the final whistle blew, the game was still 0-0. So we had to go into overtime, and early on, Jean Moutinho had a corner who whipped it in to Max Hummels, who got on the end of it and finished a beautiful header into the top corner, putting us up 1-0. An absolutely amazing header from Max Hummels. What an amazing signing he was. So as 120 minutes came to an end, Monaco had become the UCL champions, beating Bayern Munich 1-0, completing the rebuild. And if you are still watching, make sure to like and subscribe down below. I would really appreciate it. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.